Also want to say a little bit more about what I was talking about the whole space thing, is that if you don't have enough space, just like the same thing as with that 3 foot pathway to the 4 foot object of every single way you turn it, it's always 4 feet. It's the same thing as if you don't have enough space for a concept, regardless of what the concept is, you're only going to be able to have enough space for what can fit through the pathway of 3 feet. Upon that of, you won't be seeing the whole thing. You will only see one perspective of it. Being that it's one perspective, there's parts in life that want to be seen as all of what they are. And so they're going to bombard you with everything that they are. And you are not going to know what's going on because you haven't created the space enough for it to fit and show itself to you so that you can accept all of it and move on. Because once you accept it, it doesn't have power over you anymore. As I guess there's the thing of simultaneously something existing everywhere if there's no one place for it. So in a sense, you could be saying you're calling back your energy, your attributes, the parts that you are of life that created that in inklings of themselves. And so don't beat yourself up and let if you got to take time and you can only recognize so much of something, because you could have a lot going on. I mean, yes, you got to pay bills, you got to work, you got to go represent somebody else to pay the bills, and got to act like somebody else. And so you got to get the means to have this whole other lifestyle that you at the same time, you're attempting to be yourself. So then you have to have your other lifestyle. So the easiest way is to have them blend together. And so it's still about becoming it, yet it's about having enough open space so that the 4 foot object can fit through the 3 foot hallway because the hallway got bigger, or the object got smaller. Yet simultaneously that happens because once you open up yourself to having more space, who's to say that still isn't a 3 foot pathway in a giant's realm now, in a sense? And now that thing that's the same size, coming from the same place that you potentially had the 3 foot, the 3 foot, I guess you could say the same way of how Alice in Wonderland became smaller to fit through the small door, and then became bigger and all that. It's about that. It's about becoming that. Becoming bigger so that the smaller thing can fit through it. Or so that you can become bigger so that that thing that was the same, you can see all of it. It's not really about being smaller, because only everything really gets bigger upon itself. And yet it's not really getting bigger. It's just revealing more of its story. Revealing more of its because you're able to perceive that as something that it can do. Because you could say there's God and all that, yet is it always potentially God that does it? Or is it the things that God enacts that really do it? So God could really just be the narrator of the story, or that of the one that documents it, because they have this able to see all the possibilities of every single thing, and to them it's all real and it's all happening. And so potentially all they got to do is write it down, and if that's the words that start happening along the lines of it, that God knows where to find it in a sense, of what has happened, and then more or less enact certain things that simultaneously appear in your life. And it still comes to, in a sense, if there's no one place for something, then it exists everywhere. Yet if there's a place for it, then it exists in that where that place is. And so still everything exists, and so it's all about transferring energy. And yet, in a sense of that self, it's not about transferring anything or transferring the ability. It's just like the freezer will take the whatever the hotness and exchange it with its cold that it already has. Because that's what it is. The cooler keeps adding to the coolness of it, building up whatever it is. And so whatever it's built up of, it's able, it then gives everything that it's able, everything to that one, to the whatever the freezer thing, and takes all that hot, replaces it with all that cold that it has, that it is, essentially, takes that hot, and then transmutes and transcends the hot to always being a freezer. Yeah. Very simple way of understanding something. What is that? I'm not sure at this moment. I'm just talking and semi-conceptualizing and all that. Attempting to interpret it for myself. To do that hard work and see past all the challenges as not challenges, as just a means to what lesson I'm going to learn. What lesson could I learn here? Because within a lesson, you can learn 100,000 things. Within that one, no matter what it is, there's 100,000 things to probably learn from that lesson. Because you could probably apply that thing, that same concept, the same theme, overall archetypalness of it, 100,000 times, if not some more. And yet, the silence of it, so there's no doing of it, there's just the silence of it. The unknown of it, in a sense. The becoming what could be known to that of what is able. So there's like a million different lessons you can learn when you apply silence to it instead of doing the lesson and learning from it. You're still learning from it. It's just you're not doing it. You're just kind of letting it be and you blending together, and then you just really become the thing. You really just are the thing after that. And by it, you being it, then you just understand it. And then, well, you accept it. And then really you start controlling yourself, which really could then be called the weather. Controlling the weather. Yet it's really, you just accepted so much of life that it became you. And so it is you. So you're being the able of whatever the weather would be. Love yourself, enjoy life. It's all of grand journey of lessons to silence, in essence.